How do we evaluate people, especially when some of us have been urged not to judge lest you be judged? Or when we're told we're all sinners and fall short, ... Of course, then, are all people equal in the, quote, sinner department? Or say we're urged to assess character. But what does character mean? What does integrity mean? In fact, some people say all people have a dark side. Does that mean everybody's the same then? Others might say only some people have a dark side. And why is there the word evil? Why are some people said by some to be evil and others good? And finally, a question, a clash. How can we be urged to sort out those of good character versus not good character if somebody, on the other hand, says, well, we all have a dark side? How can you have good character and have a dark side? Well, it seems to me a common element in what we might call bad character is this, that a person of so-called bad character is somebody who has a underlying desire to see people suffer. But not everybody suffer, or they would have no allies at all, and eventually would do themselves in too as the last person to suffer. But they reach a kind of optimality point where some people are desired to suffer and their allies the least, and of course themselves the leastest, so to speak. So to repeat, I believe a person of quote-unquote bad character would be those who desire to see an optimal number of people suffer. Why? The simple word displacement. If they can't see somebody from basically their childhood suffer for how this individual was treated, or if they can't get what they call justice in a court of law, or even an acknowledgement of the role of somebody, typically a parent in childhood, the role of that person as per suffering upon the child, then I suppose the phrase would be, they want to be able to kick the dog. Indeed, when I used to read psychoanalytic literature, I believe the word displacement referred continually as an example to a person coming home frustrated and then wanting to kick the dog. Why? Because the original source couldn't be kicked, so to speak, or the pain somehow reframed. Let's just put it that way. Indeed, even from Christian scriptures, people are urged not to take out vengeance, retribution, revenge. The phrase, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, urged then as an alternate. Noting too that there is a statute of limitations upon which a parent cannot be held accountable in a court of law for what influence they might have had negatively upon a child. Although a child can make statements, say in a community or online or to a parent's employer. And interestingly then, I suppose a parent could in turn file libel and slander charges upon the child, or attempt to have the child processed into psychiatric let's just say, circles. And so round and round and round it goes. Indeed, in the movie Come Sunday, there's a scene in which a bishop was very, very happy or wishing that his father would burn in flames forever. But that not happening, of course, of a guaranteed sort, what better thing then, I suppose, than to seek it upon other people in the present day and age, especially, we might say. Displacement, again, is the best word I can think of. Or you might say, ultimately then, isn't this bad character? To want to see revenge of a hellfire damnation nature upon anybody possible, except one's allies, ultimately. I call this, again, the desire for displacement, and isn't this possibly then, if we think about it, bad character? We can go round and round about whether a person's bad character is a matter of integrity, a matter of lying, so to speak, a matter of even inaccuracies. But if you think of it, aren't there people who lie, so to speak, to their children to protect the children's best interests because the child can't handle too many frightening things or too much data at one time? You might call it data smogging of a child. And so the veritable Santa Claus will bring it type deception is not a matter of does the parent have poor integrity or not, or is the parent lying, but is the parent desiring the best for the child, as opposed to something of an opposite direction. Does the parent wish to see a child suffer, or does the individual, generally speaking, want to see somebody suffer? Just because of, again, displacement. This then, to reiterate, is what I think we're talking about by sorting people out, if we were going to go all or nothing. Good character versus bad character. I think this too then is at the nub of what we talk of in persons seeking forgiveness or seeking to be forgiving. For I think ultimately when we talk of forgiving, we're talking about forgiving a parent usually for pains that we suffered in childhood. And this is a very difficult thing to achieve. The achievement of it probably ties in with a shift to better character, so to speak, of not displacing any longer. And very, very difficult to achieve, I believe, largely because to reframe things requires a reframing of one's vocabulary. All too often, I believe, our people-oriented vocabulary renders us angry, blameful, and unable, basically speaking, to put together the cause and effect relationships that caused basically a parent, through no, quote, choice of their own, to follow the laws of the universe and end up with children suffering, so to speak. This then, I believe, again, is what we talk of as bad character, the desire to likely see as many people, if not, though, their allies, suffer, in lieu of reframing how a parent had an influence on the child to suffer, and not being able to get the parent to suffer themselves thus.